The Boston Celtics have a new owner, and the Phoenix Suns are still showing signs of life as they move into the 10th seed and going into the play-in in that Western Conference. What has got them there? A mix between the failure of the Dallas Mavericks and the Phoenix Suns actually playing better basketball. We're talking about both those things and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host here, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And we're going to start off with the actual basketball, right? We'll get into the Boston Celtics and their sell there and how they're doing it, I think, in the right way that's going to be good for that fan base and for the transition of the team. But the Phoenix Suns last night, with the win over the Chicago Bulls, moved into the 10th seed in the Western Conference. Now, when you look at it, they are on a 2-game winning streak. They're 5-5 in their last 10. The Dallas Mavericks, who were the previous 10 seed, are on a 4-game losing streak, and this has now moved the Phoenix Suns into being in that 10th seed, technically tied, but they do own the tiebreaker over the Dallas Mavericks. Now, this is going to be an interesting battle to watch the rest of the way, right? And the reason why I say that is that it recently came out that Anthony Davis does want to make a return this year, even despite there being some trepidation from some within the Mavericks organization and just some questions around Mavericks fans on, hey, why? At this point, like, what for, right? What are we aiming for when it comes down to that? So, but overall, like, there's some really, there's some movement there. And when you watch the Phoenix Suns play, especially over the Chicago Bulls yesterday, like, this is not a team that isn't having pride about the way that they're playing basketball, right? Now, the Mavericks are in a much different scenario. They're in a different situation. That whole franchise is in a place right now to where, it sucks, right? And I feel for Dallas Mavericks fans. I want to be clear there. Like, to be a fan, to be part of the fan base of a team that just made such a stupid move at the trade deadline, and then your GM to be really that disconnected. And then even they were trying to sell you on something. The Anthony Davis there, like, he immediately went down in his first game with the Mavericks. Right now, the benefit of the Mavericks is that they own their own first-round picks in 2025 and 26, both drafts that are shaped up to be really deep drafts. So if they are going to eventually make their move, this is the time to do it, right? Like, they could get some luck, and I tell you what, if they get lucky, I hope the Dallas Mavericks as a franchise aren't rewarded by the stupidity of Nico Harrison to luck up and get the number one overall pick because they're going to be in the lottery. But we'll cross that bridge if and when, hopefully, we never get to it. But the Phoenix Suns over this stretch have been playing really much better basketball. When you look at it, the Phoenix Suns on the season have this 26th worst defensive rating. 26th defensive rating in the league, 17th in net rating. Over the last 10 games, they've moved to the 12th best net rating in the game of basketball, the 6th best offensive rating, and the defense is still at 20. It's seeing a little bit of an uptick at 22nd in the NBA, but they're number one in true shooting percentage, 3rd in effective field goal shooting percentage, 2nd in assist percentage as well. Like, this is a team that is still playing solidly, right? Now, they're 5-5 in their last 10, so take that with however you feel about it. Then in their last 5 games, they're 6th in net rating, 10th in defense, 5th in offense, right? 4th in true shooting percentage, and they're 3-2. So the Phoenix Suns, who, were a franchise that many people counted out. Hell, I counted them out, right? And they're showing signs for life for whatever that's worth at this point. And the Suns, they need to go for it, right? They don't own their own first round pick. That's going to Cleveland, right? And then on top of that, they do have the Houston Rockets pick. That's not going to be high up there. So the Suns have every incentive to go ahead and fight for it the rest of the season. And that's exactly what they're doing. They are out there fighting and competing, and now they've taken ownership of the 10th seed. When you look at the Sacramento Kings, another team that's trying to find, their rhythm and their way as well, the Suns just got to keep chugging along and winning. And, if they can do that, which still is a huge question there, right? Like, it's not for certain yet. They haven't created any type of space to say that they're absolutely going to walk into the playoffs, as the 10th seed in that Western Conference. But when you look at some things, like, there are some things that could go in the Phoenix Suns in their favor, right? So, you got to look at that type of thing. They do have the most difficult schedule left in the NBA, right? When you look at Tankathon and the strength of schedule, they are number one. They have the toughest schedule left in the NBA. So there's that. The combined opponents remaining for the Phoenix Suns over the remaining 12 games they have left this season is 63%. 63%. So they have a very, very tall test in front of them. But with the Dallas Mavericks being in the place that their franchise is, unless Anthony Davis does come back and play amazingly well, there's a solid chance to believe that they're going there. Now, the Dallas Mavericks have the 17th toughest schedule in the NBA, which is, the bottom half of the league. So that's not anything too crazy or scary there. The Sacramento Kings still are in the top 10 as far as toughest schedules. They have a combined opponent win percentage of 53%, which is 10% worse than the Phoenix Suns' remaining schedule. But this is still something that you cannot overlook. And just, we'll see how it's going to go, right? There's a lot. The health has to stay there, right? KD and Devin Booker have to continue to play well, which, they've been playing amazingly well. Devin Booker just put up over 40 against the Chicago Bulls yesterday or last night. So there's those things that happen there. And I think overall, right, is that how this goes with Anthony Davis and the Dallas Mavericks, because this is a part of that, right, is that if Davis does come back and the Dallas Mavericks, which, according to the NBA's rules as far as sitting star-level players, and Anthony Davis does meet those qualifications by the way that the NBA defined it, is that, hey, the Dallas Mavericks can say all day long that they want AD to sit down and they don't understand why Anthony Davis wants to get back in the game. But if he does, unless they are willing to take on the fine, which, at a chance for Cooper Flagg, maybe they are willing to take on that $100,000 fine. But hey, right now the Dallas Mavericks will be projected to pick 12th, right, in the NBA draft, so they're still going to have those lottery odds. But hey, if AD does come back with 12 games remaining, we could start seeing a team that's fighting over that 10 seed, and one doesn't want to, probably doesn't need to, in the Dallas Mavericks, and the other one in the Phoenix Suns were a team that everybody kind of counted out. But that raises the other question here, right? The Anthony Davis part of it, right, is that the dilemma, to put it for lack of a better word there, right, is that do the Dallas Mavericks owe it to their franchise or do they owe it to the player, right? Anthony Davis is somebody who I firmly believe has wanted to combat the injury-prone label that he's earned over the course of his NBA career. I think he's further motivated by the trade by the Los Angeles Lakers to motivate him to want to get back out there on the court as well, and just prove that the Nico Harrison, how he talked about AD as far as being able to build a contender around AD, that maybe can be true, right? We'll see what the future does hold, but I think overall, this is going to be a storyline to watch and an interesting one over the remaining part of the season. But let me know what you guys think down below, right? When you look at the Phoenix Suns, do you think the Phoenix Suns are going to be able to hold on to this 10th seed in regards to the Dallas Mavericks, right? Do you think that Anthony Davis wanting and fighting to make his return, do you understand that as a competitor? Or do you look at it and say, yeah, the Mavs are right to not want him? Because listen, a chance in the lottery in this draft is more than worth it. Let me know what you guys think on that. But from one big man in Anthony Davis to another one, Mark Williams, right? It came out that Mark Williams, after being traded to the Lakers, the trade being rescinded, and now Mark Williams being moved back to the Charlotte Hornets, that now he could be back out there on the trade block this upcoming offseason. And here's what I'm going to say, right? Mark Williams is a flawed player. He's a player that has not been able to stay healthy and has not been able to stay on the basketball court for the Charlotte Hornets teams. Unfortunately, the Charlotte Hornets dealt with a lot of that with LaMelo Ball as well, right? Now, I understand the Hornets' perspective on moving on from a player like Mark Williams, completely understand it, right? And I think that Mark Williams offers, it's such a weird place because 23 years old, 7 foot, 240 pounds, he's averaging 15 points and 10 reads, averaging double-double today on almost 60% shooting from the field. 60% shooting. Oh, by the way, he's also averaging almost a block and a half per game. Those numbers alone should have a lot of teams enticed and interested in who Mark Williams can be for their team. But then you run into the question, the most games that Mark Williams has played on his young three-year NBA career has been 43. Right now, that can go up. He can pass that this year with as many games as left. Right now, he's played 35 games this season. But you're talking about somebody that you've barely gotten a half season worth of games out of in any year that he's played here, right? 19 played his second year, 35 played this year. So that's the question that you have to ask yourself. And if Mark Williams is out there available, what is the market going to look like for Mark Williams? Now, they got Connect back in the initial trade, so that may point to the level they're looking for another young talent to get back in a move like that. And Mark Williams through the month of March so far, 15 points, 10 rebounds, right? He's averaging that, which is really, really good for this team, on 68% shooting from the field. And by the way, shooting 80% from free throw range as well, which as a big, if you can hit that consistently, good for you, right? But Mark Williams being out here and being somebody that could be available on the market offers a different perspective, right? Because at 23 years old, 24 the majority of next season, that he offers that if you have a team that has the risk tolerance to be willing to take on a talented, young, big man, that may be worth it, right? Now, as he continues to improve on his health, right, and he has proved healthy, right, he's playing the best basketball of his career right now as well, this may be the time to buy on Mark Williams. And I think that if you're a team, for example, with a low first-round pick, maybe you're looking at Mark Williams as a better chance than taking a shot on it, if that even what it takes, right? And I think that Mark Williams, it makes some sense for him to be available, and he makes some sense for some teams as well, looking for some big man depth. I guess we'll see what's going to happen there, right? So we'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. Mark Williams, is he somebody that you think makes some sense for an NBA team? Which team do you think makes sense? What do you think is a reasonable package that the Charlotte Hornets could ask for back in a move for Mark Williams? Now, with that said, let's move to the last topic for today. The Boston Celtics have been sold, right? And they're doing this in an interesting way. So they have been sold for a record-breaking $6.1 billion. Billion. That's crazy, right? Shout out to that, right? And this is an amazing deal, right? And Chris Holm, who bought the team, said this: growing up on the North Shore and attending college in New England, I've been a diehard Celtics fan my entire life. I understand how important the Celtics are to the city of Boston, the role the team plays in the community, and is different from any other city in the country. I also understand that there is a responsibility as a leader of an organization to the people of Boston, and I'm up for that challenge. My partners and I have an immense respect for why Wick and the entire Grousbeck family and their undeniable contributions to the Celtics organization over the past 23 years. We look forward to learn from WIC and partnering with Brad Stevens, Joe Mazzulla, and the talented team and staff to build upon their success as we work to bring more championships home to Boston. Now, here's the thing, right? With Grousbeck, he's staying on board for now, right? And they have a transition process in here that I really like, is that he will stay on board until the 2028 season, which means that he will still oversee the operations there, which means that there's more of a natural transition from one to another. This also all but guarantees that there's not going to be any type of let's sell off a bunch of players, right? There's not going to be a denial in the belief of this team or trying to get costs down for this team, things like that, right? So with Grousbeck still staying on, when he bought the team in 2002, by the way, Chris Holm is going to be walking into a situation where there's going to be some natural transition, right? You got players on this team that are going to naturally kind of move on. Al Horford's one to think about, right, when you think about stuff like that. Drew Holiday's one that's probably going to move on. But this is probably not going to be one of those situations where a new owner comes on and you see everybody just removed because of that transition, meaning Brad Stevens, right? Like those type of things. Joe Mazzulla staying on, those type of things. And you still have a team here with two stars on it in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And so because of that, like this, I love the way that this is working out. And I'm sure Boston fans as well like this, because you could have had somebody come in that has their own vision, wants to move everything, and in a couple of years, your franchise is completely different. The fact that you have basically a 3-year transition period, it could ease up some on the perception, and the concern from fans. Now, he says he's a lifelong Celtics fan, so maybe not a lot of that was going to change anyway. But we'll see what the future does hold, man. And even Grousbeck did say Bill is a terrific person and a true Celtics fan, born and raised here in the Boston area. So of course, there's no thought about the Boston Celtics leaving Boston. That would be ridiculous. But it's crazy to see a team traded in the midst of a title repeat, right? Like that's what they're hoping to do. They just won a title, but it seems like they have a good mindset on how they want this transition to go. And I think it's one of the better ones that we've heard of in sports personally. But you guys can let me know how you feel down below. Make sure you guys are following the show at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related. And I'll see you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.